For the first time in history, a congressional committee voted to end the federal prohibition of marijuana. It was on Wednesday. The House Judiciary Committee voted in favor of the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement, or MORE Act, which would remove the drug from the Controlled Substances Act. Currently, cannabis is a Schedule I drug in the same category as LSD and heroin. The MORE Act would also require the expungement of federal marijuana convictions and includes a 5% tax on cannabis products to establish a fund to help treat substance abuse. The bill now moves to additional committee for vetting. Although it's unclear how successful it will be once it passes to the Republican-controlled Senate, the bill received bipartisan support in the House Judiciary Committee, passing 24-10, with the support of 2 Republican congressmen voting with the Democratic majority. My next guest voted in favor of the bill, which paves the way to legalize marijuana federally. With me now is Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. Hey, Matt, do you see this as a conservative issue, individual liberty and states' rights and so forth?
I do, Michael. Federal prohibition against marijuana has not worked. It has impaired research, and it has stopped our states from being able to unlock cures. I was curious that one of my Republican colleagues said the federal government was rushing into marijuana reform, yet we have 47 states who have some version of a marijuana program. And right now, federal policy functions as a wet blanket over the type of innovation and investment that could allow marijuana to improve people's lives around the country.
So are you an island, or do you see Republican colleagues, particularly in the Senate, not in the House, as maybe coming to the same mindset as Matt Gaetz?
Well, unfortunately, the game you watch in Congress is not necessarily the game being played. Though we moved legislation out of the Judiciary Committee, marijuana reform remains in peril for this reason. We have divided the movement, where there are a lot of libertarians who traditionally would support marijuana reform, not because they support marijuana, but because they support the liberty and 10th Amendment themes that you identified in the open of this segment. However, some of the elements of the House bill that contain restorative justice, plowing money into communities that have been impacted by the war on drugs, that can offend the libertarian sensibilities of some of my Senate colleagues. And so we remain, I think, still very far apart, which is so frustrating because, as your platform demonstrates, a vast majority of the country wants to see sensible marijuana reform. And because we're going to fight about how much of the money is going to go into traditionally communities that have been impacted by the war on drugs, we may be the cow that starves equidistant between 2 haystacks because we can't figure out which one to move toward first.
Kellyanne Conway was a guest of mine months ago, and she was here in her role as the White House drug coordinator. We were focused on opioids, and I raised this subject with her in the context of an opioid discussion. I want to show you just a snippet of what she said to me.
For all the folks who talk about the benefits and the legality of marijuana, there are many health professionals and employers increasingly concerned that this is not your grandfather or your father's marijuana. The TCH components are much stronger. We just can't say it's all good for all people at this moment. We're very concerned about the effect on the brain among young people.
I was raising with her, Matt, the prospect that legalized marijuana is an alternative to those who are opioid addicted. I didn't seem to be gaining her support. Here's my question, because you are a Trump whisperer. How does this play with the big guy, and have you had the conversation?
I have worked to be a positive influence with the president on marijuana reform. To my friend Kellyanne Conway, I would say, okay, boomer. I mean, that's a very boomer approach to marijuana for no other reason that it's actually THC, not TCH. And I think that her reflection shows a real ignorance to the science demonstrating that in states where there are marijuana programs, you see a reduction in Schedule I drug recommendations. You also see a reduction in the types of overdoses that are crippling our country and hollowing out America. And so I think that if we have a lower acuity anti-pain alternative to heroin and opioids, then I think that you'll see the country do a lot better. And it's just like, this is not an issue that young people are fighting about. This is largely generational more than it is partisan, because I think more and more young people in the country are saying, like, look, let's just go ahead and let people live better lives with a more natural alternative that has a lower propensity for addiction.
Final question. Do you have any reason to believe that you can win President Trump's support on this issue, legalization at the federal level of marijuana?
President Trump is no fan of marijuana, but I think that he made commitments about medical marijuana in his 2016 campaign that we still need to fulfill. Fortunately, Attorney General Barr is in the rulemaking process now, so we can accelerate approvals for research. That is the key. If we can get more research into the types of ailments where marijuana can be helpful, I think that that will accelerate the pressure on Congress to join the country and join the 47 states that are working for our constituents.
Congressman Matt Gaetz, thank you for being here.
Thank you.